Rip City Mornings.
A little bit different to maybe come up with some solutions. So while not every time I criticize something, which is a lot, do we always come up with a solution, but we try our best. And our next guest did that in the most fun possible way. It's the way that we always like to, which is to spend other rich people's money from the I-5 corridor with his plan to save Portland, to save the Trailblazers, and maybe even add some more fun to it. Tyson Alger back on the big show. Good morning, Tyson. How are you?
I'm doing great. And, for the last 24 hours, people have been asking me, Tyson, how did you do it? And, again, it's planning with other people's billions.
It's the best.
It's one of the easiest things I've found in this life. Zero stress on my end, and I come across brilliant each time.
Every single time, let's just start spending the other billionaires' money. A lot of people are doing that with golf right now, spending a lot of money that's not theirs. We may dive into that into just a bit, but let's kind of get to the nuts and bolts of your idea, which, again, I chuckled at first because I know you, and to think, hey, how are the Blazers ultimately going to get sold? And Tyson Alger's solution, of course, is hockey.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I'm looking for my opportunity, and this was a one-timer that I rang off bar down game winner, I think.
But all right, so for those, by the way, for those that haven't read it, shame on you. After you listen to Tyson, go back and read it. But kind of go through the nuts and bolts of your idea, because we all read the article in the Wall Street Journal. We all kind of know the realities that are facing the Portland Trail Blazers and this potential sale that apparently has been stonewalled. Go through the nuts and bolts of your idea, because, again, no umbrellas in a brainstorm, right? All ideas wanted.
Yeah, so this dates back to the 1990s when the Rose Garden, now the Moda Center, was constructed. It was built as an arena that was supposed to host hockey and NBA. If you actually talk to some people in the hockey community, the sight lines for the NHL in there are actually probably better than what they are for basketball. But the thing is Paul Allen wasn't a hockey fan. He would have been open to bringing in a team on a bargain, like the Pittsburgh Penguins when they were in bankruptcy. But his biggest fear was that bringing in an NHL team would cannibalize his one true love, which was the Portland Trail Blazers. So let's fast forward here to 2023. Phil Knight hasn't been able to buy the Portland Trail Blazers. It seems that Jody Allen doesn't want to sell it to him, or she wants to sit on being the executor of his estate and earn whatever paycheck that she's getting for it. So it doesn't look like Phil's going to be able to buy the Blazers. So I think that he should go in and buy the Arizona Coyotes, which are an NHL franchise currently playing in a 5,000-seat stadium in Tempe, Arizona. Bring them up to Portland, build a new stadium, turn the Coyotes into just, or as I called them, the Portland Phillies. I mean, he can have the naming rights. It's his billion.
Yeah.
Turn them into the next Kraken, the next Las Vegas Golden Knights, both new NHL franchise, which have averaged more than 100% capacity since their inception. Turn that into a massive hit, maybe buy enough land to attract an MLB franchise, build a stadium down there. And then, hey, I don't think there's going to be another billionaire that's going to want to come into Portland and compete with angry Phil. So I think Jody then ends up selling the Blazers to Phil anyways, and they move them to whatever complex, the Knight complex. Again, naming rights, he can have them.
TBD, yeah.
But yeah, I think, and this isn't a financial play. I mean, like he shouldn't be taking financial advice from me. I think it's just like a straight up revenge thing. Like I think Phil is trying to do a good thing here by buying the Blazers and wanting to invest in them and turn them into something special as like his legacy play. And somebody who's not from here is trying to keep him from doing that. So let's go for revenge.
I believe that's called bleep you money is kind of, I think, the term, right? Where you can essentially, you could just set $100 bills on fire if you wanted to, just to spite your enemies. Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on the big show. I want to keep going down this because this is fascinating to me, because it is interesting, the idea of potentially a new building, if in fact this was going to happen, because Tyson, you and I have both spent a fair amount of time down in Eugene, and maybe other than a sports apparel empire, maybe the best thing Phil Knight does is buildings. Sports complexes. Pretty good at it. Autzen Stadium, PK Park, Matthew Knight Arena, and the spaceship of a track facility that is the new Hayward Field. Other than, again, shoes, active wear, probably buildings, maybe the best thing he does.
Yeah, and like all of them kind of have like that kind of signature look to them. I mean, you're in Eugene and around the University of Oregon campus when you see the kind of new style of buildings that have either popped up around the athletic facility or the JQuA or the gazillions of other buildings that have some sort of Knight funding behind them. And so, I still think that the Moda Center is still a really great venue, but I don't think Jody's going to be super keen to let Phil rent the ice out from underneath them. So I think it would definitely be kind of part of the signature of this proposal is having Nightland, Swoosh World.
There you go. All good ideas.
No. But yeah, no.
Well,
I think that
here's the thing, Tyson. They made Climate Pledge Arena, right? But there are no bad ideas in terms of what this could potentially be called, because they took Key Arena, named after a bank, a big old key on top, and they made it Climate Pledge Arena.
Or the Smoothie King Center or the gazillions of other different ones. But, if you're to take the Wall Street Journal and kind of this narrative for its word of like Phil looking for one last legacy play, yeah, like he could own the thing that the other billionaire owned, or he could build something that turns Portland from a sports town into a sports destination. It seems like Phil's always kind of triangulated around Portland. Like his huge business, his world-class businesses in Beaverton. He made the University of Oregon into what it is now. Let's turn Portland into something just mega. Like, you have the money to do it. You have the legacy. You have the ability to craft that legacy. Let's just start with hockey, man. I mean, it's a simple request.
It is also interesting, and again, I don't know enough about city codes and zoning laws and all that stuff. I do know that you said Nike is in Beaverton, which we all kind of assume, but technically that's unincorporated Washington County, if I'm not mistaken. Which I don't know how much of unincorporated Washington County is left, but I think there's a smidgen of a parcel of land to maybe put a building out there.
Yeah, sure.
Tyson Alger on 620 Rip City Radio. It was funny because after the baseball weekend, I was like, oh, perfect. Tyson's going to come on. We're going to talk some Oregon super regional talk. And then, of course, the Wall Street Journal just threw everything out there in terms of the Blazer sale. But I do want to get back to Oregon. We mentioned it last week, kind of the interesting ride, the interesting road of Oregon baseball, starting with, talk about kind of a revenge plot, not fully a revenge plot, but a little bit of, hey, Oregon State, you don't get to have all the fun. We're going to go ahead and build a new baseball stadium, and we're going to get into this baseball thing too. Came close a handful of years ago and have since kind of been wallowing in mediocrity. And then these last couple of years have gotten better and better. And now they go down to Nashville. They beat Vanderbilt. They win the regional. Back to hosting a super regional, which a couple of weeks ago, Tyson didn't think that was even a possibility. What a whirlwind couple of weeks for the Oregon Ducks baseball team, to where they're at home hosting Oral Roberts, needing to win twice to go to Omaha for the first time.
I mean, before the Pac-12 tournament, it was kind of like, okay, how many wins do they need in this tournament to make it so Selection Monday isn't something that they just completely sweat out? Like, this wasn't a team that was expected to do any of this, and now they're approaching what is probably the most important weekend for this team since 2012, 2013. I mean, we've both been around Eugene and the Oregon fan base to know like how easily it can ignite behind something that has national potential. And if they go into this weekend and beat Oral Roberts, as they probably should with the run that they're on, and they go to the College World Series, like Oregon base, like this could be jet fuel for kind of the Oregon baseball fan base, which, you know, when things are down, like it can be pretty lonely around PK Park, but we've both seen that place when it's energized, and it can be something special. And kind of with where like the basketball programs kind of left everybody this year, like I think there's definitely an opening for people to fall in love with the team, and it's forecasted for some this weekend.
It absolutely is. Which, I mean, I would imagine it would probably, PK Park would sell out a super regional regardless of weather. But yeah, I would say, 80 degrees, sunny in June, Omaha College World Series on the line, as opposed to, I don't know, Portland Pilots, no offense, but in March on a Wednesday with some 7 o'clock first pitch might be a little bit more enticing. And it sounds like it was a very, very, very fast sellout. It's going to be a packed house down there on Friday.
Yeah, I'm going to be stoked. And I mean, let's not knock the Portland Pilots crowd. I know a really great local Portland sports broadcaster who tried to go to a Portland Pilots game with a entrepreneur who runs a local sports website. It got rained out. It got rained out, and now that I'm thinking about that was probably like 6 or 7 years. We should probably hang out sometime.
I would say so. I don't know if you heard. I got a backyard TV. Like, always welcome. Backyard TV.
But I've put the backyard TV on such a high pedestal now that in my head, I don't think that it can really live up to the expectations, because it sounds pretty great. Can I tell you? And again, I think people would want to hear this. So there was a time, Tyson Alger, a couple of other mutual friends were like, we're all going to go to this baseball game. It was very cold that day. The game ultimately got rained out. I got a parking ticket. Then we went to what was supposed to be a sports bar. The Blazers were playing a first-round playoff game, and the bartender would not change the channel off of hockey. It was the playoffs. Never mind, the Blazers were in the first round in Portland, and I got a parking ticket, and the game got rained out anyways. I think that was the year that the Blazers went to the Western Conference Finals, so it was like the start of like a worthy playoff run. But no, we had to watch the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Florida Panthers.
All right, before we get too deep into this, Tyson Alger, by the way, from the I-5 Corridors, who's joining us. He joins us in this time slot each and every Wednesday. You should already know by now, but I'm just letting you know. We hinted at it a little bit last week heading into the regional, but kind of take us through with Oregon baseball. George Horton, it was an important hire. It was hey, flag in the ground. We are here, especially to those in Corvallis, right? And it looked like it was going to work. And then obviously both sides kind of became disinterested. George Horton clearly didn't want to be in Eugene in the springtime when he was wearing, what looked to be, what would you call that up in Alaska? I don't want to say like.
I don't think we need Alaska. He just looked like the George Costanza wearing his Gore-Tex.
Gore-Tex, yeah, exactly. Gore-Tex, trying to buy wine at the store. That was George. And so, obviously, Oregon moves on. They bring in Waz and kind of starts to rebuild the team and kind of starts to reform it. What do you think has been kind of the nuts and the bolts in terms of getting Oregon from where it was, which was kind of wallowing in mediocrity, to now 2 games away from a College World Series?
I think there's a couple things. I think, one, they've modernized the style in which they play. I'm not going to criticize George Horton. The man won a College World Series when he was at Cal State Fullerton, but he played a very dead ball era style of baseball. It was get on base, move the runner over, put pressure on the defense, make them do something. And Waz's philosophy is, hey, let's let our best hitters swing away. And Oregon's power numbers the last, since Waz took over, they've set records almost every single year for for runs scored, for home runs, for just all those stats. And I think it's just they're not having to play perfect games to stay in games because they can actually score some runs behind that. But, you know, the other thing too is Horton was always very good at getting commitments from guys who you look and you're like, oh my gosh, that guy's like the number 4 recruit in the country or the projected top 10 pick. But they very often lost those guys in the draft, or they just wouldn't come and sign with Oregon. And I think Oregon's recruiting with Waz. They're still bringing in very, very good players, but they're bringing in players that are very signable and kind of match what they want to do. So I think it's just kind of a modernizing of the program. And then, you know, baseball's a sport where if you get hot at the right time too, it can just work. And I think with the amount of bats that they've brought in, it's just it's worked very, very well for them. This whole Waz tenure has been great, but you're seeing kind of the fruits of the labor pay off right now.
Well, and I also think I know that it comes down to winning, right? That's the biggest thing. You want to have success. You got to find ways to win ball games. But especially, I think, kind of out here on the West Coast, like, style matters. And if you watched Oregon play at all during the Nashville Regional, or if you watched them play during the Pac-12 tournament, or heck, if you were a diehard who was actually watching some regular season Pac-12 baseball, Tyson, they're a fun team. They hustle around the bases. Like you said, they hit the ball. They play, but they play hard, and it's a fun team to watch.
It's a fun team. I mean, like, it's one of the cliches that the analytics people probably don't believe in, but a savvy sports writer like I do does. But like momentum and team camaraderie, and I mean, just like I have so much fun watching like Riku Nishida play out there, and just, you know, the tenacity in which he plays the game, and I think guys just feed off of that. And so, you know, it's just strange having this conversation about the Ducks right now instead of the Beavers. You know, this is usually the time. This is usually the time when Oregon State steals the headlines. But I guess they took football earlier in the year, and we're flip flopping for it.
Well, don't worry. Like, super producer Brendan across the way, he's just like he's like daggers from the eyes. Probably best way to describe it. That we're talking Oregon baseball and super regional daggers from the eyes. All right, Tyson Alger, I-5 Corridor. You need to subscribe to the Corridor. Obviously, I love the Phil Knight piece. Again, Tyson, you and I have a kinship. We will spend Phil Knight's money as long as he will let us. What's coming up on the Corridor?
Yeah, so on Friday, we're continuing our New Faces and New Places series with Portland State's new offensive coordinator, A.C. Patterson. He's new on the job from the Minnesota Vikings, and Barney thinks they got something going over there this year. And I think a lot of it begins with him and what he's doing with the offense, and also how he's kind of changed the way they go about recruiting. So things might be on the up and up on the park block. So that will be coming out on Friday.
There we go. Tyson Alger. You can follow him on Twitter at Tyson Alger. Subscribe to the I-5 Corridor. Hear him on this particular program from time to time. Hey, Tyson, have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you next week, bud.
Hey, thanks a lot, man.